All right, what is up, NFL fans? Welcome to the Lumia Sports Podcast. If this is your first time watching, hello and welcome. If you're a repeat, we love to have you back. And today what we are going to talk about are the NFL All-Pro teams, which just got released this morning. As someone who this is their first year doing, comprehensive NFL coverage for all these weeks, I didn't know the All-Pro team was announced now. I thought it was released in the Honors Week, the week before the Super Bowl. However, incorrect. It is released today on Saturday, and I think if I had to guess for a reason, it's because the college football semifinals were on Thursday and Friday, and the NFL said, all right, enough of that. Let's get back to what we want to talk about, which is the NFL. And they release the team. For those asking real quick, before we get to the list, we're going to do the first team and second team and just some quick reactions. But for those wondering, you might be thinking, you know what I mean? Oh, I thought the Pro Bowl team got released a week ago. I thought we knew all the Pro Bowlers. Well, this is different. The All-Pro team is purely voted on by the writers in the AP Associated Press. To me, this is also more important long-term because this is more how you say impactful in affecting like Hall of Fame bids, stuff like that, and some awards, which we'll get into that as we go down this list, and you're going to see it right now. First team, Matthew Stafford as the quarterback. We got to start right there. To me, him being first team over Drake May does signal that normally if the voters go with the All-Pro quarterback, they're going to stick with that and continue it for, let's say, the MVP vote. So I thought Drake May was going to have a chance at coming from behind from MVP. I thought that the 3 picks against the Falcons kind of hurt him. But judging by this, it does appear that Matthew Stafford will be your MVP in the upcoming season. Bijan Robinson is running back. That's so interesting to me. I don't want to skip and go to some of the snubs, but just keep that in mind. Bijan is your starting running back. Kyle Juszczyk is your fullback. I mean, there's only going to be him and Ricard, pretty much the only 2 fullbacks in the league. So a nice spot there for Juszczyk. When we get to the wide receiver position, this is interesting. Puka is listed first over JSN, which I find very interesting. I thought JSN had the best season for a receiver, but what that does is that puts Puka, gives him a higher chance. Now, they're all going to be first-team All-Pros. Don't get that wrong. But I think that gives him a higher chance as that Offensive Player of the Year award, which, again, is a huge, huge award. That normally goes to the best skill position player. So it'll be running back, wide receiver, tight end there. Trey McBride. I don't want to skip one. Oops, sorry, skip one. Jamar Chase, too, making the list. Shout out Jamar Chase. He just had to fight through Jake Browning, get to some Joe Flacco, out there slinging it, and he is also on the team. Christian McCaffrey, all-purpose. Again, this is my first time ever really looking at the list, full transparency, but all-purpose seems kind of funny, but they put McCaffrey there, obviously, for his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield and run it. Don't really argue with it. He had so many receptions, and he was really doing everything for the 49ers. I don't mind him being a first-team All-Pro. You can make an argument he's a top 5, top 7 kind of MVP vote kind of guy. Trey McBride, I mean, he was already good with Kyler, and then Brissett came in, and him and Brissett just started putting up legendary numbers. No other tight end comes close to what McBride did. It's actually a very weak tight end year, which we will get into in a minute. Now, linemen, I'm just going to go with the list here, but what you're going to see 2 Denver Broncos, their left tackle, Garrett Boyles, and their right guard, Quinn Merritt. Now, I think that's very interesting. I wonder if you would have seen 2 Colts up here had the season gone a little differently. The Broncos and the Colts offensive lines were 2 of the best in the NFL. The Broncos letting up a really, really low amount of sacks. So the fact that you get 2 guys there, that makes sense. They also were top 5, top 10. Might have been top 10 toward the end of the season, but running the football. Joe Thuney for the Bears, very interesting. But again, number 1 rushing team in the league. They were an awful offensive line. They became a great running offensive line. Don't really argue with it. But you see a former Chief and now a current Chief, Creed Humphrey, at center. I don't know if I agree with Creed Humphrey, only because I don't think their offensive line was that good. Now, again, I do a lot of film breakdowns. I don't watched the film and started all 22. So if you know what I mean, if people are arguing like, hey, Creed Humphrey had a great season, he was underrated, it wasn't his fault. Obviously, the Chiefs were bad. There were multiple other reasons at play. That's fine. I just think personally, again, I'm doing this off the top of my head. Don't have really any other options. And you also have Penei Sewell. Now, remember, a lot of this is reputation. Sewell's been up there for years. But again, Sewell kind of was getting bullied a lot this year. Maybe not him, but that Detroit offensive line, talking to Lions fans, they would a lot of the time say that their offensive line was their weakness. But again, Sewell, more than likely a great player. Can't really argue with that. Now, let's scroll on down, and we're going to talk about the defense here. So defensively, you start off, I mean, obviously Myles Garrett, what am I going to say? That's their defensive player of the year. If the team was better, he might even be an MVP consideration. Broke a record. Myles Garrett, a great player. No argument there. Will Anderson getting in, I find that very interesting. Again, probably should have looked at the numbers before I started doing this, but I'm working and I got to get – we're trying to just get my quick thoughts, quick takeaways. But him over Danielle Hunter, very interesting, as well as Danielle Hunter not making this list, with obviously Micah Parsons being first team. That's super interesting. Got hurt toward the end of the year, but – and again, not arguing with anything Micah did during the season. Watching him Thanksgiving – just take away the lines. He was clearly an impact on the team. You could argue maybe his clout got bigger because he's out, and now you're seeing what the Packers will be and have been toward the end of this season. Jeffrey Simmons, interior lineman. Guys, as well as Zach Allen. Zach Allen, great player. Broncos, led the league in sacks, almost broke a record. Might have broke the record. I stopped really paying attention to it, but don't argue with that. Something else with edge rushers as well. No Broncos being up there. Very interesting. Not putting, at least not yet, Benito or was it Cooper? Is Cooper the other guy? I forget the other guy. Cooper. Is that the other guy? Their other DN. Both of those guys going crazy, but Zach Allen. But anyway, Jeffrey Simmons, no doubt about it, the best interior defensive tackle. Maybe not the best. Jalen Carter, like the word, but the most healthy. He was even hurt this year, but dude was dominant. Watching Titans games, there was a completely different vibe because for the first 10 games of the season, I used to watch every single team play every single game. And Jeffrey Simmons would get me hype to watch Titans games. He would be gone, and there was a little stretch where he was out, and I was just wondering what was wrong, what was different with the team. And then he played the Raiders, and it was just Jeffrey Simmons putting on a show, allowing Arden Key to get sacks. Jeffrey Simmons is a dominant defensive tackle, interior lineman, as they call it, and I don't argue with that at all. Linebackers. This honestly might be my biggest thing here. Jack Campbell, for the Lions, who I just got to be honest, watching, he was good, but I didn't see him make a lot of splash plays. I would maybe have someone else there, as well as Jordan Brooks as your first teams. Now, the Jordan Brooks thing, I will concede, part of that just comes from him playing with Miami. But if the Dolphins are going to be bad on defense and have a bottom 5 run defense, I don't know. Tough to really put Jordan Brooks up there. For me personally, I wasn't staring at purely Jordan Brooks film. Maybe start picking it up toward the end of the season. Again, I strictly watched the first 10 games, but they were getting run on a lot. Find that interesting. Someone who didn't make the list at all, Schlesinger, the Browns rookie linebacker. He just popped off the film every time I saw him play. I can understand you not putting Zach Bond on either one of these lists, and we'll get to the snubs in a minute, but I do find the linebacker position interesting. Derek Stingley Jr., I got no argument with that. And Quinyon Mitchell, I don't remember if he's on the second team, but J.C. Horn got a lot of buzz. But J.C. Horn, toward the end of the season, had big-time games where he struggled. So, obviously, I don't mind Quinyon Mitchell, go Birds, and Cooper Dejean as your slot cornerback. There is no better slot cornerback in the league than Cooper Dejean, period, point blank. And Quinyon has been up there all year. You could really argue those guys, as well as obviously Bond, Jalen Carter, but those secondary players really do kind of control a lot of the team and the defense for the Eagles. And I just the fact that Howie got these guys 1 and 2 last year, and already now they've helped win a Super Bowl, and now they're all pros is just ridiculous. And then that's why Howie is without a doubt the best GM in the NFL. Kyle Hamilton is your safety. No argument there. Kyle Hamilton, he could be your safety. He could be your slot corner. He could be your linebacker. They were lining up in the A-gap. And his injury is a big reason why the Ravens ended up missing the playoffs in that last game. Kevin Byard led league in picks. A dog, or at least he was tied to it then. A dog. Byard, the one game where he changed the identity of that defense to being a turnover-heavy defense. A lot of that came from Kevin Byard going out there, being able to make plays and get huge interceptions. I do really like the secondary players that they put on this list. But so now here we go. And mind you, I'm transitioning over, guys. Don't get too mad at me here. I'm trying some new stuff. But here we go. Let's go to the second team. Don't look at that yet. We're going to the offense first. And I'm trying to move it all the way down, man. I got to do a lot of adjusting here. They changed my whole how big the file is and everything. But we move, baby. And we move. Let's see if I can move it over a little bit more. I like it. I'll just move my face over. There you go. I'm over here now. We're over here. And let's go over the quarterbacks. Oh, wow. I just didn't want to do that. I got too excited. But my first thing, where's Jalen Hurts? No, I'm just kidding. Guys. Although Eagles fans probably would seriously consider that. Nah, Drake May should be your second team All-Pro. I thought he should be your MVP, maybe your first team. There's a possibility that they're just doing this and, you know what I mean, putting him there and then giving him the MVP. I'm not sure, but definitely think that that's very interesting. Running back, James Cook. Now, this is where things get interesting. Your running back being James Cook on this team, remember, it was Bijan on the first team. That means that Jonathan Taylor, despite being in the MVP discussion for the first 10 games of the season, doesn't make an all-pro team. Putting Bijan over him, I think, is kind of crazy. James Cook at least makes sense. He led the league in rushing, in touchdowns. And the Bijan thing, sorry to skip ahead. If you guys look down to the all-purpose, Bijan is there. The reason that Bijan, that you're seeing him on the title of this, is mainly because, well, he was first team running back, second team all-purpose. So they gave him 2 slots. And I got to be honest, like, again, giving him 2 slots and giving none to Jonathan Taylor. I know toward the end of the season, like, yes, Jonathan Taylor wasn't the same. But a lot of that had to do with, I don't know, his quarterback, tearing his Achilles. And I know they missed the playoffs, and so I guess you don't have to put John Taylor. But Bijan didn't. Bijan missed the playoffs too. I thought that John Taylor might be a little snubbed there. George Pickens, second team wide receiver, All-Pro. This is going to be interesting. Remember, the Cowboys are going to have a contract decision to come up with, so him making this team, and you wonder, okay, he made All-Pro, but like, is anyone going to give him a contract that he's looking for? Maybe it was a little overhyped. The one game he didn't perform his best on Thursday night against the Lions, but definitely something to keep your eye on. Amon-Ra St. Brown, can't argue with that. He snaps. And Chris Olave was going crazy for a good amount of the season. And I'm just trying to think on the top of my head, are there any like huge snubs? I wouldn't necessarily say so. Although, interesting, he shouldn't make the list. But I got to be honest, like one of the first people I thought about, as funny as this is Jacoby Myers or like a Nico Collins. But can't argue with those guys. Let me talk about Bijan. I mean, Bijan was great this year. I don't take anything away from Bijan, but I think if you're going to give him the all-purpose, you know what I mean? And again, maybe the writers didn't know like how this was going to shake out. But having no Jonathan Taylor is kind of crazy, and Bijan twice. Kyle Pitts, tight end. This was definitely a down year for tight ends. Travis Kelce, about to retire. I think for me, the biggest reason that Kyle Pitts is here, well, first off, he had that game where he had 130 yards, 3 touchdowns. He became like the GOAT for one night against the Buccaneers. But I think the biggest reason that he's here is because Tucker Kraft got hurt right when he was making a real run. I think he definitely would have been second. He might have been first. Tucker Kraft looked like the best tight end in the league, obviously, until Trey McBride started snapping. So, I mean, shout out Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is such an interesting just a career, man. He went from being overrated to I think maybe like last year, maybe a tad underrated, but now second team All-Pro. I don't know. It's a weak year, so screw it. But for the Falcons to have really three, if we look, offensive All-Pros is kind of crazy. And as we go to the offensive line, Trent Williams can't argue with that at all. Quentin Nelson, we talked about the Colts offensive line. They got Quentin Nelson here in. That's a future Hall of Famer. I think Quentin's going to be close. Trent Williams is a surefire Hall of Famer. The Dolphins center, Aaron Brewer. I don't know. Didn't watch a lot of Aaron Brewer film, so I'm going to take your word for it. Chris Lindstrom, that's another guy who's been around for a long time. But again, that's the Falcons' third All-Pro on offense, which is crazy. I think that's the most that any team had offensively for All-Pros. Atlanta, the most All-Pros on offense, is just a wild thing that we're living in. And Darnell Wright, right tackle for the Bears, well-deserved. Again, the Bears' offensive line was completely a wreck last year. They turned it around. So number one in rushing, can't really argue with any of them getting those props. That Atlanta stuff, man, that's kind of crazy stuff. But let's go to defense real quick. You got your defense, your edge rushers. Brian Burns for the Giants. Burns had a couple games. He just unfortunately, obviously on the Giants, but he did have a couple games where, I mean, his frustration kind of signaled the end of the Giants at least the Brian Daboll tenure, because he was just mad when they lost that big lead because he was snapping when they played the Broncos, and they just had the momentum of Scat and Dart in them. Danielle Hunter, second team. You got to get Danielle Hunter up here. Danielle Hunter was a monster. He had, the one game I remember him watching him against the Jags, he just completely dominated the game, 4 sacks, helped stop the Jags and led to giving their team a chance to come back and win that game. And Hunter was just a dog all season. Aiden Hutchinson, definitely bounce back season after his injury. He played great, specifically early in the year. He was dominant, making huge plays. So definitely Hutchinson deserves it. Again, do find interesting though, no Broncos. They had the most sacks all time, or at least this season by like a good amount. I know early in the season it was like all-time numbers up there. And no Cooper, no Benito. Very, very interesting. I mean, the Broncos do blitz a lot, and I think that might be a problem for them in the postseason. But again, I find that super interesting. Leonard Williams for Seattle, Cameron Hayward for the Steelers. No argument there. I mean, Hayward, you could just give it to him for that last game alone. The deflection to the pick of T.J. Watt, just his influence on that game. And Leonard Williams just with Seattle, I mean, that defense flies. So you got to get some Seahawks up there. And Leonard Williams was a dog this season. You're going to see Ernest Jones as well, linebacker for Seattle. Look, I'm not going to – there would be no arguments about Seattle Seahawks on this list. And Devin Lloyd had a little stretch where he was a Defensive Player of the Year argument, had 2 interceptions in that one game, a pick 6 against Patrick Mahomes, which led to the Jags beating them and might have changed both courses of the season for those teams. Cornerback Patrick Surtain, and there's your Defensive Player of the Year last year. Don't argue with that. Broncos still had a really good defense. Devin Witherspoon, again, the Seahawks. Here come the Seahawks, man. No first teams, but you got to get them in there. Their defense was just really, really good toward the end of the season. Slot corner, Derwin James. That's funny. But I guess he's a slot corner. I would consider him more of a safety, but whatever. Derwin James deserves to be up there. You got to get a Charger somewhere on this list. They did make the playoffs, and Derwin James, known as the heart, soul leader of that team. And he, just like Kyle Hamilton, you can play him anywhere. Safeties, Jesse Bates. That Atlanta defense did start coming on, and Bates does make a lot of plays. He really does out there. Roaming. He's at least involved in a lot of plays. You always hear his name watching him. And Xavier McKinney for the Packers. Remember a couple years ago, obviously, led the league in picks. Don't remember a lot of McKinney this season. but maybe a little bit of a reputation by there. So those are your all-pro teams. Again, I think Kyle Pitts being up there is kind of very interesting. 3 Falcons on offense. You see the Seahawks getting in now on defense. 3 of them on that second team. For the Eagles, 2 all-pro cornerbacks, but no all-pros on offense. The Rams only, they had Puka as well, but Stafford and Puka, the only player from their team that made it. You know what I mean? So very, very interesting. Specifically, again, I didn't expect him to make it, nor should he make it, but no Josh Allen on the All-Pro team. So some interesting stuff. Big stuff where it goes to Hall of Fame voting. I'm excited to see a lot of these players. They're going to be in the playoffs, so I'm excited to see what a lot of them do now as they get a chance to further their legacy, but a big step toward these guys in their careers, hopefully toward them making a lot of money and really being immortalized in different ways.